On today's podcast, we're going to be talking with one of the baddest men on the planet, one of the top arm wrestlers in the entire world. And we're going to learn exactly what it takes for the qualities, traits to become one of the best in the world. What's going on, guys? Joey Gramont, aka Chicago Joey here. So normally we know we have poker podcast guests on here. But today, and I've kind of been talking about this for the past couple weeks, I've mentioned arm wrestling to some of the guests, asked them if they watched it. But finally, the time has arrived, guys. I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to get my intro here. Joining us today on the podcast is a young man. I guess he's a little older than me. He's in his 40s right now, but this is one of the baddest men on the planet, guys. He is one of the top arm wrestlers in the entire world. He's one of the first people. I think he's the first person ever to win the right and left-handed championships for the World Arm Wrestling League. He's a left-handed champion in 2014, 2015, 2016. 2017, and then he won the right-handed title in 2016 and 2017 as well. I does a lot of content out there on YouTube. When I watch this guy, I'm super entertained by this guy, not only for the show that he puts on when he's arm wrestling, but also for the show he puts on when he's dominating the opponents out there sometimes, man. I think actually majority of the time. But yeah, this guy's one of the top ambassadors for the arm wrestling sport. I've seen a lot of his videos out there when he goes on TNT or when he goes on ESPN, and just the way that he presents himself and carries himself and really tries to promote the sport is something very unique that I think a lot of poker players out there, one particular I'm thinking of, could really fucking learn from out there too. Also, great coach as well too. I've learned how to arm wrestle, and by learn how to arm wrestle, I mean I know how to not get my arm broken by a couple of videos I've watched from him out there too. And yeah, man, we're gonna talk with him more all about what it takes, and also the biggest arm wrestling match in history went down at the end of last year. Unfortunately, was not on the victorious end of that, but I got a lot of faith he's going to come back strong. He's going to climb that Mount Everest of a challenge and conquer the Russian Hulk. We're joined by Devon Larratt. Devon No Limits Larratt. Coincidentally enough, No Limit Hold'em is a form of poker, but Devon No Limits Larratt. What's up, brother? How's it going, man?
Hey, you have done your homework, Joey. Oh my God, you got your Coles notes down.
So I'm gonna be honest, like people keep asking me, like, because they watch arm wrestling too, some of my fans, and they said, how the hell do you know when did you start watching arm wrestling? So I want to give people a little context here. So basically over this past year, I've watched more arm wrestling than I've watched poker. So and also to be fair, I know the history of poker. I've watched every video online. But what happened was I'm on the beanbag chair here in Vegas. I'm kind of relaxing, kind of figuring out what I want to do with my life. And on my YouTube, all these arm wrestling matches keep coming up. I'm like, all right, let me check this out. Like, what's this all about? And one of the first matches I see is in Las Vegas. I think Devon had short hair. Then he was like a shaved guy, young man, kind of this whippersnapper. And he's on there. He was like, ah! He's like yelling at this. I'm like, this guy's awesome. What's going on right now with this guy? So I start watching more of Devon's matches, and the man is just, he's getting in people's heads. He's putting on a show. He's doing some grunting. He's doing some yelling. He's looking at the camera. 1, 2, 3, boom! Just throws him down there on the. I'm like, what? This is amazing. What's going on? And then you kind of follow the progression, and you follow over the years. And then Devon makes YouTube content for himself as well too out there. So I started watching some of the videos out there. I'm watching the training matches. I'm like, all right, how do I get my grip strength more? I'm like, how the hell does he build this machine? Like, what's going on with these sick workouts he has? And I was really following it up until they had the super match last year in November, I believe it was, with against Dennis how to say his last name? Saplenkov. Dennis Saplenkov, the Russian Hulk, one of the craziest looking man I've ever seen. This man is the Russian Hulk. And he had the super match. I'm following along. I can't wait for it to go down. I'm sitting there. I'm like, all right, it's finally the time's come. He went out there. Unfortunately, didn't go his way, but he's got back on the horse, man. He had a dominating win this year against Todd Hutchins, correct?
That was my last one. Yeah, I just competed against Hutchins. Yeah, Hutchins is a great dude. Probably the greatest middleweight that we have in North America. So it was a nice way for me to start. Normally I'm arm wrestling people at least my size, but yeah, I got given a really talented smaller guy, which is a neat change for me.
Yeah, so you're about 6'5", and it seems like your weight fluctuates between 225 and maybe like 260 or something about that.
Right. So I walk around like if I'm just being me, just doing what I want to do, training, not eating like a crazy person, I'm probably waking up around 2:45. And 2:45 is a really easy cut to a 225-pound division, which is where, you know, when they offer that, that's really nice for me, because I'm kind of like at the top of the bracket. But since 2018, the World Arm Wrestling League has kind of disallowed me to hide in the shallow end, and they've put me in with all the big dudes. So yeah, so I fatten up and get disgusting. So about 260 is where I sit when I compete in the open bracket.
So they won't let you cut down to that 225 limit anymore?
They don't have the 225-pound class at the moment. Arm wrestling world is very fluid, and the promotions are not 100% consistent in what's offered. Like, you won't get consistent brackets all the time. And what most of the best guys in the world are chasing is the biggest prizes, the best things you can win. So they will do so at a compromise to, you know, where they sit the best. You know, like there is a 225-pound class out there, but there's nowhere near as much incentive to win it as the World Arm Wrestling League offers. So I'm in with the World Arm Wrestling League, and I'm in the deep end.
So I guess what's the differences in being in the deep end? Does that mean that you're just against all the heavyweight guys, and some of these guys are going to be taller than you and even outweigh you in a lot of different ways?
Right. I mean, when you talk about fight sports, hey, there's a reason they invented weight categories. I'll say that the very best guys, and it's kind of been proven. So the best guy in a bracket, depending on how tight the brackets are, can typically almost win the bracket above him. Very close. And that's what we just saw when I arm wrestled Todd Hutchings. He was the 195-pound champion. He just beat the number 3 and the number 4 from the 225-pound bracket last year. Okay. And this year he faced me. I was kind of the number 1 guy in the 225-pound bracket, and I beat him. And he's up in 9 days with Matt
Mast.
With Matt. That's right. I love that you follow this. This is great. Yeah. So he's in with Matt in 9 days. And I think that he's going to get killed by Matt too. So, but anyways, that's probably about where he sits. So 195er can place 3rd in the 225-pound division. I'm hoping that I can win the Open this year because in terms of height, I'm not outgunned. It's just in, you know, maybe there's some horsepower there that I got to get, but I think I've got a really good chance of winning the Open this year.
So in terms of the arm wrestlers that are competing in the World Arm Wrestling League, and I know a lot of the top guys are also going to be, if you look at the top rankings list, most of the guys aren't necessarily American and they're all over the world. So where would we rank a lot of the competitors that are in the World Arm Wrestling League compared to where they might stand in from all the competitors in the entire world?
Well, that's a difficult thing. I don't want to ever mislead you, but so the first thing I'm going to say is I can only give you a little bit of accuracy with what I say. But I think I can give you a more accurate statement than almost anybody. I'll tell you that there's probably 4 or 5 names in North America in the open weight division that are extremely relevant on a world scale. So Michael Todd won the open weight last year for North America for World Arm Wrestling League. And I'll tell you straight up, there's no question that anybody he faces, he's got a great chance of beating. So when you talk about the best guys in the world that are not in the World Arm Wrestling League, you'll mention names like Levon Saganishvili, a great big dude from Georgia who's like 175 kilo, who's like, you know, all in. Like he's 175 kilo and he's not a bodybuilder. He's an arm wrestler. but he looks like he could be a bodybuilder, you know, like his whole body is just made for strength and just crushing dudes' hands to the pad. Really, really powerful man. Another guy is Vitaly Laletin from Russia. He's like a 6'9" or so. Like you look at him on camera, on video, and you're like, yeah, this guy doesn't look so big.
I'll
But
show you.
then when
This
you
is the first guy you
yeah, there's
mentioned.
Levon. Yeah,
This young gentleman right here would be Levon, correct?
right. And I think, you know, you talk to most people in the world, I think that he would be the odds slight favorite to be ranked number one in the world right now. The problem is he still has a bunch of people to beat. He's relatively, like, he's one of these guys who's like a really fast riser. He's dominated his performance for like the last 4 or 5 years, winning world championships and climbing through the pro ranks, you know, really well. Yeah, he's crushing people. He's got a hurdle. So there's a top 8 promotion that he's involved in, which is kind of the equivalent to what we're doing in North America. So, yeah, Europe has the top 8. And I'd say that their big stars are probably Vitaly Laletin, Levon, and Prudnik, Evgeny Prudnik, who's a really interesting character. He's an opera singer, immensely talented fellow. He's lighter. He's only like about 105, 110 kilo, but really good. But I'll tell you that any one of our top guys is right there. Like Dave Chafee, a lot of accounts have Dave Chafee actually the number one guy in the world. And that's the interesting thing with arm wrestling. It's not all of our champions are what you call fully dominant. So that means that they don't always beat everybody, but they'll beat like most of the people. So a lot of times fighting style has a lot to do with it. And a lot of people have kind of like carved out niches of what they become really good at. But it just so happens that these niche movements do really well against some athletes and not so well against others, depending on the styles. And then you get guys who are more well-rounded. Everybody has an advantage and disadvantage. Our top guys are very comparable. Like
Right.
if you look at the top guys in North America and the top guys in Europe, arm wrestling is popular all around the world. The last 5 years has been amazing. I think that the next 5 years are going to be even bigger for our sport. Big steps. One of the things that I like to say is big deal. Big deal happened, I think, within the last 6 months. Biggest country in the world, China, has on a government level recognized arm wrestling as a sport. And to me, I mean, people don't talk about it a lot, but for me, this is like, it's big news. It's big news when a country like that decides, okay, arm wrestling is legit on a government level. We're going to treat it on a similar level that we treat diving or 100-meter dash or whatever. And China's not the only country. There's a lot of countries, but it's infusing itself in government sport as well as the pro scene is booming also. So it's just good times.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of potential for the sport to grow, and obviously we kind of mentioned this before we got on here. But with YouTube and with the association with the Bleacher Report, who's also associated with TNT, seems like the potential is there, and also with UFC getting bigger and bigger. I feel like there's more of an opportunity out there for these combat sports to grow in popularity. These actual real combat sports. I think as we see WWE sort of decrease in maybe popularity a little bit, and we see the rise of these other sports, then I don't see why arm wrestling would be able to not be a part of that. But I think that having an ambassador is something that really helps to fuel the sport. And it seems like you've taken up that mantle and really tried to get yourself out there and really tried to think about the showmanship aspect of things when you are taking place in the matches.
There's a lot of people who have invested a lot into this sport, and I feel like I'm lucky, and I've stood upon so many people who have laid the path for all of us to keep pushing this thing forward. I'm just lucky that I fell in love with it at a really young age before it even started to become mainstream. I got exposed to it, really young. Like I touched it early, like most people do, but I met a pro when I was 18 that really kind of opened the door and showed me that there's so much more to this game than what most people even realize. I mean, it's changed now. Like I think that most people now, just understand that arm wrestling's a miniature fight, but it wasn't that way 20 years ago. But yeah, what I realized as I've spent more and more time in it is it's just not as simple as winning and losing. And that's a thought that is just ever present in my mind when I'm training, when I'm competing. It's not a black and white thing. Winning is a whole range. Like just to say somebody won the game, there's a big story always to be told. And I've learned that in big wins, you have to expose yourself to risk. You have to open the door back up. You have to be a little bit gracious. Like if you're going to win, it's just a story to be told. And I love a good story.
What do you think's the story that comes out of suffering a big loss? What do you think? Is the story more of a something personal that you take away and you find where the vulnerabilities are in your own strategy or your own approach or your own mindset when you have to deal with the reality of that situation after the fact?
There's two main things that I see with people. And the first thing that you have to understand is a loss, as much as it sucks, is a test of your character. And if you want to be a great person, you have to embrace positivity in everything. So that means when you lose, you better find a way. You better find a way to make it the greatest thing that's happened to you. And what I've found is that if you want to make a loss great, you have to take all that information and just accept your defeat and accept your own shortcomings on why it happened. A lot of people try and push the loss away from them. They try and be like, oh, it happened because of, somebody else, or I got screwed over. And when you start to push the loss away from you, what happens is you don't really get to grow from it. When you take that loss and you pull it in and you're like, yeah, this is where I needed to be better. This is where. So when you can really do that, it can be one of the best things. And I think that that's why I am where I am today in the sport, just because every time I lose, which is a lot more than people realize, I really do my best to really embrace all the lessons. Like, you name a loss and I can tell you what I learned, but yeah.
Well,
arm wrestling has some constant themes. And the losses will tell you a lot about what the sport is. Like when you really just focus on like, why are you losing? You can learn just what the sport is from just that.
So from the Michael Todd match, when very controversial match, of course, if you read the YouTube comments out there, if you watch arm wrestling, the comments are hilarious. Anytime there's like an interview done, they're like, oh, is he hiding under the table? What's going on? Like from that match, and that was a very controversial thing with the idea of the King's move and sort of the strategy that he was using. Didn't seem like a lot of people were happy about that. What's the takeaway that you have from a match like that?
So from the Michael match, okay, there's one thing that it always comes back to. You can always be stronger. Okay, always be stronger. And that's like a constant thing that you're always developing in the sport. And once you get technically sound, there's like 4 main channels that you're always getting stronger in as an arm wrestler. So like I could tell this to anybody who doesn't know anything about arm wrestling. I could just be like, yeah, for a year, just do these movements, get stronger at them. And no matter what, you're just going to be a way better arm wrestler. It's just like getting rid of the twos, getting rid of the threes. And initially, you're just coming into a game with a whole lot of high cards. This here, bam. Just that very simple thing. Just the ability to keep your hand high up, right? Because people are always trying to pull your hand down. You know that movie Over the Top?
Mm-hmm.
It's a real thing. That one line, that over the top, that's going to give you a really good key on what's really important in the sport. This height, this ability to climb, it's massive. It's massive. And people are weak like this. Like if you try and like tie weights or a towel where you're lifting up, from the ground or something, you'll see you're not very strong there. But it's vital. Cupping, pronation, and supination. These four movements. And if you want to get more into all that stuff, there's a million things online. You can do your research, but there's 4 ways to get strong. But then with Michael, there was some things that I ignored and some things that I relied on that I kind of let go away. Everybody is a unique puzzle. Michael is a very unique puzzle because of his strengths are very not typical. So when you think about a guy like Michael, you really have to hone in on him. Otherwise, you can get in a lot of trouble. One of the things that was new from the last time I faced Michael was I didn't realize how big of an impact the extra 2 inches was on the table. And it really empowers the ability to drag. And his style is a dragging style. And having that extra 2 inches and the pads on the WAL table, they don't allow you to come forward those 2 inches. And in my opinion, this was something that I wasn't prepared for. Also, I tried last year, so 2018. So 2017, I knew that it was going to be the era of the super heavyweight. So basically from the fall of 2017 till right now, I'm just trying to be as big and as fat and as strong as I can be, at a cost a little bit to my endurance. And with most people, this is absolutely fine. And this is the way that you should always prioritize everything in arm wrestling is strength. Really, strength's a really big deal, because comes efficiency, and in turn comes endurance as well. But with Michael, you actually really should have a little bit more endurance, and that was really my main failure with Michael, was always, as usual, not being strong enough. Tactically, not taking into consideration the extra play that he had on the back, and endurance. Yeah, those 3 things were my big takeaways from Michael. After that, I started to do like all this endurance work, but then I went and pulled with the Eastern Europeans, and I got taught a totally different thing. So it's really about when it comes to tournament arm wrestling, your answer has to be very generic. But when it comes to one-on-one arm wrestling, you really have to tailor your training for your opponent for best results.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the training that you do, because if you watch a lot of videos and you go to a lot of these events and you go to a lot of conferences, it seems like your take on everybody. And one thing that I've noticed that you do really well, which surprised in some way doesn't happen in poker, is that you like to play to your opponent's strengths and almost put yourself at a disadvantage when you're training sometimes, so that you can kind of, I would call this like your A game, your B game, your C game, where you try to get better at your B and C game. And you also try to get better at defending your opponents, no matter what strength level they are or where they stand on the totem pole. You try to get better at combating and competing and being able to handle their A game too. So that seems like that's a big part of your training, is just putting yourself in these disadvantageous positions and getting stronger in all of these things to total, I guess, like build your overall game up.
It's true. There's a lot of ways to train for arm wrestling. I'm an arm wrestler. If you ask most arm wrestlers out there, my A game is, I don't really have a very good A game, but I've got a ton of B games. I drew this picture the other day, and I don't think a lot of people really got it. I drew a picture of a 10, and I drew 2 8s. And this is really kind of representation of me versus most of my competition. Most of the time, it's 2 8s against a 10. Kind of, it has a lot to do with the way I was brought up in the sport, and it has a lot to do with the way I view the sport today. One of the things that I was taught very early is if you want to get better at anything, do that thing. Very simple. Like, no matter what it is you're trying to get better at, you have to replicate it as closely as possible and just always give yourself that experience. So I never stayed too far away from an arm wrestling table for the beginning of my career. And to get the most out of the experience, you have to, you learn that you have to take care of your teammates. So that means if I have a squad of guys that's coming over to my place or whatever to train with me, it's very important that they're able to consistently come and work with me. And if I just drill them, it's going to be much more difficult for them to stay healthy. And another thing that happens is it's about what they can give me. And when I let them get in the best positions that they can possibly get in, they are giving me the most that they can give me. And as a more senior player, this is a great position to put yourself in, so long as you're safe. I've gotten into places where I kind of start to give too much. Like I start to let my guys have 2 arms and stuff, and it's not good. Like they can hurt me too. So the best place to work is where everybody's safe and you're getting as much effort as you can out of somebody in a safe way. So that kind of shaped me as an arm wrestler very much into a defensive style of puller. And then after that, I also learned that there's a lot of glory in beating somebody's ace. You know, like if somebody has something that they love to do, to beat them in that spot is really great. And it means more. Like, yeah, I mean, that's an easy thing to understand. Making people submit is bigger than just defeating them. The submission is a big thing for me.
Yeah, it seems like when you're in the match, this kind of does come off a little bit to me when I'm watching, is that it seems like you could end a lot of these matches quickly that I've seen. Whether but you seem to really play it up a little bit. Like you play it up, you're like, they might lose. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my God, this guy might have a chance. You're sitting, the facial expressions, and then all the time you just, starts coming back up, sort of thing like that. And I have to imagine this is done for a few reasons. Number one, for put on a show. If you just throw the fucking guy down the first time, well, what is the show for the fans in that situation? I think you're very aware of that dynamic in place. And number two, this has to be psychological effort. There has to be some sort of psychological warfare going on here when you do something like that. Also, I think a big thing is you tire your opponent out as well too. Now, you probably don't need to necessarily tire them out, but you're known for your endurance and for the defensive style. So I'm imagining that when these guys are trying, they just wear themselves out, and then in the later rounds, they just have absolutely no chance against you.
You know, you are very astute, and you see a lot of things. I'll tell you that everything that you said is true to a degree. The first one, I mean, I think a lot of times people give me too much credit.
I might be.
A lot of times that is totally real. Okay. Like it is, like, I would love to have a little bit more control at times. A lot of times everything you see is 100% real. After you see me win the first time, sometimes I'll open the door a little bit, but if I'm on, you can tell when I'm on the red line just by how much my hair is shaking or how red I get, you know. But the thing that I always try and get back to in arm wrestling is there's a lot of things going on in arm wrestling. There's a referee, there's fans, but to me, the sport ultimately boils down to two people. You know, it's you and it's me. And when it's two people, I feel like, say there was nobody else in the room, nobody else. It's really not over until the one person actually tips their hat and acknowledges that the other person's better, you know? And this will happen all the time. Like if it's just two guys in a garage, they'll know when they walk out of there who the better person was. It didn't take a referee. It didn't take fans watching. They know. And this to me is really the ultimate place that I always want to end my victories on, like that feeling. So I don't need the referee to tell me that I won. I don't need the fans to tell me that I won. All that I'm really looking for is that guy across the table to acknowledge my superiority. You know?
Do you feel like that ends up happening during a lot of your match? Because I know there is some trash talk going on there. You are talking a little shit. You're, back. Most of the people aren't necessarily giving it back, I feel like, but it seems like you're sort of leading. And I also wonder how your opponents feel about that, because I know in poker world, when you got some people talking shit, which some of the people I get on the podcast, like to fire little shots, you get people real sensitive. Devon, they start crying.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, they're crying. They just, oh my God, these people. And it seems like maybe the dudes are a little tougher in your sport, so they're not gonna go cry. They're not gonna start crying and complaining about that when you start talking a little shit.
Really depends on the human. Really depends on the person. Yeah, some people don't have submission in them. Some people don't have a backward step in their whole body. Some people are really respectful. Some people don't think that kind of behavior has any place anywhere. Really depends on the person. Some people, you learn that you don't want to talk to them. You don't want to. Some people get stronger when you make them mad. Some people, when you make them mad, make bad decisions. So you have to learn kind of who's who. But the one thing that is a certain is talking trash is kind of like, just upping the bet, upping the bet until there's a whole bunch of money on the table. Because when you've said a whole bunch of things, people pay attention. And it just increases the awareness. And some people do well in that scenario, and some people crumble. Most of the guys on the top do well, but it's just part of the game. It's part of the theatrics. It's part of the experience, and you should really learn to enjoy it. In my opinion, we talked about WWE earlier, and while WWE, we all know it's, I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe WWE is real, but what we all love about WWE is the show.
Right.
We love the show, right? We love the talk. We love the drama. So, as a real, like everything that happens on the table is real. But we can take from that, like we can build the show, but in this case, it's more real. Like we're real people talking. There's no script, it's kind of funny. My buddy Matt Mask, he's my Canadian brother. So we knew we had a match coming up last year. And I'm like, okay, man, like we're going to be going at it. So like, we're cool. Right. But like, we're going to start going at it. He's like, yeah, man, don't come at me. So I start poking him a little bit, start firing at him. And he just turns off. And I'm like, oh, like he disappears. He goes away to his cabin. There's no internet. There's no Wi-Fi. There's no nothing. So I'm just like, firing shots away into the internet, like talking crap about him. And by the time he faces me, he's so mad. He won't talk to me, won't nothing. Like he was really angry. I think he wanted to fight me. We're good now again, but it gets really real. It gets really real. I expect that as the sport continues to progress, all aspects of it will, including the whole workup, trash talk, to where, I mean, and one of the things with the trash talk is it just opens up the door for people to get to know the athletes better. It's just, you kind of get to see into the way they think and operate. Yeah, I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, I think during that last match with Matt, he looked pissed off. He looked really. I was like, "These guys hate each other? What's going on here?" I've seen him like in live stream. Like I thought they're friendly, but this guy seems like he wants to. He really fucking hates Devon, right? It seemed really.
He really did. He really did. I didn't feel that way. I was having fun. I don't really get too phased. To me, it's fun. The whole trash talk part of it, like. I mean, I guess it's fun until it's not.
Yeah, pretty much.
Until you get totally triggered. Maybe I'm just quick to trigger people, I guess. I don't know. Matt was mad at me, legit. And Matt and I have known each other 20 years. So, yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to see him pull. He's got a great match coming up. Yeah. 9 days, man. 9 days.
When's your next match going down? When can we expect to see you back on?
You can see me most likely. It's really good for me. I've been really busy, actually. I've had a very busy year, and I've been really looking forward to this period. I just basically got done all the things that I really had to do on Saturday, and I've been going hard basically since beginning of March. I've been on a good solid stretch where I've been hustling. The last year has been busy. I got a couple months where I'm just gonna be at home, just training, just getting my strength up. I believe July 18th in LA is gonna be a massive card. Will probably be one of the biggest cards of the whole WAL season. I've heard about some of the matches, and all of them are like, oh my God, there's some matches on this card that I will pay. Like, I'll pay my own money to watch. Like, I'll be in that. Like, these matches are gonna be insane, and I think I'm gonna be on that card. And I don't want to say who it is, but I know that this guy hates me already. And I'll tell you that he's really, really good. And by most people, I will be considered an underdog, but I'm going all in on this one. So
by most people, you'll be considered an underdog.
I think so. I think if you ask most people, I'll be considered the underdog in this match. Which is a great place to be.
Is Dennis going to come over from Russia or Ukraine? Is he going to come over and compete in July 18th in Los Angeles?
Wouldn't that be amazing, huh? Wouldn't that be something? Yeah. I can't really spoil who it is because the contracts aren't out yet. I can't do it. But I'll tell you, it's gonna be a very big match, very big, and but I'll tell you, it's probably not gonna be Dennis. Probably not Dennis.
Probably not. I imagine not. I'm gonna have to head out there because World Series of Poker ends about July end of 15th here, and usually when the World Series ends, it's 6 weeks there in the desert, so you want to get the hell out of Vegas. So LA, perfect place to go out there too.
Well, if you want to come, I'll be posting all the information on my page as it gets close. It'll be all over World Arm Wrestling League, but I'll take care of you. Like, you get in touch with me, and we'll make sure we get you in front row, all the good stuff. Yeah, we'll take good care.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something I want to go to because the show's so much fun. I love watching, man. I love the show. I love the audience. Like, I love the audience in the background. They're always so locked in. They're just like I don't know if they get paid or if they're just there on their own, but they're always so passionate about the audience too, which I think it gives a big part to the show as well for the fans at home.
Last year for our finals, I think was one of the biggest steps in professional arm wrestling history. We actually sold out a live show. So, yeah, I mean, I remember coming up in arm wrestling, it was always kind of funny who the fans were. The fans were arm wrestlers and families of arm wrestlers. And now you go to a World Arm Wrestling League event, people are flying in from all over the country, all over the world. And last year was the first time that we actually sold out. We ran out of seats. So, and I think that trend is just going to continue until we're packing bigger venues. And I'm really thrilled with the World Arm Wrestling League. I think that there's a lot of really smart people who are looking at it, from different perspectives. So for such a long time, arm wrestling's been run by arm wrestlers, and that's great. And it'll always, arm wrestlers are the nucleus of the sport. But when you get intelligent outsiders coming in and kind of finessing things from a broader perspective, I think that, what we're doing over the last few years, kind of, in my mind, it speaks for itself. I'm thrilled with the league and all that it's accomplished and all its promise, for the future. So, LA, I'm losing my mind already. Seriously, I put my life, I put my whole life into 15 minutes on that stage. Everything that I do, really, I have responsibilities that go outside arm wrestling, but every spare moment that I have between now and then is an investment in what you're going to see on July 18th.
Yeah, I've noticed you've been lately. You've been doing a lot of content. Other YouTube, one of the YouTubers I've watched a bunch of times. Juju, you're always out there with him. This guy, I love this guy. This guy's got the awesome hair. He's always smiling. Literally, his personality doesn't seem to match the way he looks, because he looked like this tough guy, and then you watch him. He's just playful dude, just helping people out. He likes to train, bring the hand grip things to these different events, and he makes these real cool videos. And I think one of the guys shoots with him, Tom, as well. By the way, I don't know what camera that guy uses for a live podcast. He does the OK podcast. You've been on there a couple times.
Yeah.
Whatever camera he uses is the most beautiful setup I've ever seen in my entire life. His quality's top notch. But I know you've been doing a ton of stuff with those guys, and you've had them to your house, it looks like, and you were up, visited them and stuff like that. How important is stuff like that to you in terms of, maybe getting yourself or getting arm wrestling out there a little bit more?
It's really important. Reach is just a vital thing in this world today. The way we communicate, reach is a big deal. Tom and Juji are really, to me, they're like angels of the fitness world. They're people are drawn to them because of their personality and what they can do. They're really, really talented people. And they've set up their lives so that they are really going to all the a lot of the leading people in the fitness industry. And they're making a lot of people really interested in everything that they do, which is super cool. To me, I've gotten to a really great place in my life where, in a lot of ways, I'm kind of retired in some ways. So financially, you always want to make money, but I really want to do things that I want to do. And no matter what, when you get people around you that are positive, like these people are, it's just yeah, man, I just want to continue to work with people like that and do fun stuff. And yeah, good times, right? Good times.
Yeah.
And Juji is actually a good arm wrestler. When people, I'm always interested in people that come from the outside with a lot of clout. We've had a lot of, more well-known athletes kind of pay attention to arm wrestling over the last few years. And it's always, these guys are always under the spotlight, and they're always under a lot of pressure to perform immediately. And arm wrestling's like anything. I don't expect much from people in the sport for the first 4 or 5 years. Once you've been doing it 4 or 5 years, you start to really hit your groove. And by 10 years, you're awesome. And this is coming from a person who's committed their life to it. Like, not everybody's going to view it this way. A lot of people will tell you, oh yeah, man, after a couple months, you're really good. And that's true too. Like after like you're going to improve quickly, but after 4 or 5 years, I will say that most people are very proficient in the entire game, and they're safe. They're really safe. Juji only been arm wrestling like 8 months, and that's alongside all the million of other things that he's doing. But he's one of the guys that I think if he puts a little bit of heat into it, he's got a good potential in the sport. Very, just a gifted dude. But I think you could say that about anything that guy tries, really. I mean, what guy at like 240 looking like a pro bodybuilder can like do like triple flips and all? He's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, that's yeah. I mean, some people are special athletes, right? They just can do things. And it doesn't make sense. They just have these natural gifts, and they happen to find out what that gift was, and that gift happens to be athleticism, and they're able to do all these cool things. And it's really cool to kind of combine that with the work ethic and with the ambition and the drive to want to get out there and want to showcase and kind of, I feel like that's what I try to do with poker a lot of ways, is to help showcase the best things, or the things that are happening in the poker world too. And it's just such a small niche. And then you look outside of my niche, and I see the fitness is like huge on YouTube. And then you look at arm wrestling, it's a lot smaller of a niche like poker, but also growing as well too. So it's just really cool with YouTube, with the internet now, that all of these small little areas are able to grow. And that's something that couldn't have happened 15, 20 years ago before this thing took place. Is that, where would you have ever watched something like that? Where would you have watched the arm wrestling competitions, except if you had, I don't even know if it was on television at that point in time too.
We should do an arm wrestler poker tournament at one of the events.
Oh, that could be.
I'm terrible.
You're terrible.
I'm terrible. I'm terrible, man. Yeah, you don't want to pick me to win, that's for sure. But I do love the game. I do love it. I think people take one look at me and they just know everything.
Have you is no limits is probably not a reference to Texas No Limit Hold'em. I assume it's a no limits.
I wish it was. I wish it was. No, my only really experience. So I was in the military for a long time, and on my like first tour, like my old sergeants or something comes up to all of us, and he's like, okay guys, there's gonna be a lot of poker played on this tour. Just stay away from it. You'll lose everything. And so right away I'm like, okay, let's check this out. And guys do, like, on tours, a lot of cards gets played, like at the end of the day or whatever. People are playing cards all the time, and there's a lot of money being thrown around. Well, relatively, like, guys will lose their entire tour money on poker, and some guys will win. But I checked it out just a couple times, and I just got cleaned out. They were just harvesting my money, and I was like, oh, this is not the place to learn. But yeah, I need a shallow end. Is there a shallow end of poker somewhere that I can get into?
Yeah, there's the very small stakes, like the 1-2 table would be the beginner equivalent a lot of ways, where you'd go to the casino and kind of play, or some people play on the internet too. That's where I came up. I started playing on the internet, 5 cent, 10 cent, started with $50 on the Poker Stars back in 2008, and just kind of built myself up there with the high stakes. So it's just like anything, it takes a lot. It's pretty much, I dedicated my entire 20s to poker. It's all I did, all I thought about, studied, watched. And now, since I started doing my podcast a few years ago, now I'm learning about more things outside of poker. And now I realize how much I don't know about everything else. I'm like, oh my God, there's so many diet. What's this? I should have nuts and drink water. I shouldn't have fast, so it's these things that while you're so locked in and focused in, you just totally don't pay attention to all what's happening in the world.
Well, that's what you got to do. If you want to be great at anything, you got to focus.
Mm-hmm. When you think about your own approach to things, and the idea of sacrifice and the idea of being selfish in a lot of ways, what do you think what were some of the most painful sacrifices that you've had to make to get to this point that you're at today?
I think the main thing, like, I'm fine with sacrifice for the most part. Like, there's no problem with sacrifice sacrificing most things for me. The only thing is time with my family. That's the only thing that ever hurts me. Yeah, other than that, I'll give everything. I don't care. Like, because I'm so down with it. I love it so much that I'm sure that this thing will kill me. Like, I'm sure that arm wrestling will be my demise in one way or another. But I've accepted that, and I'm totally cool with it. It takes a lot. I mean, really, ultimately, the person who wins is the person who can invest the most on a consistent basis. And you start to realize that time is very important. So time management. And when you start to allocate your time for these different things, you know, you start to realize, okay, time with my family. Okay, how much time do I have? And so that hurts when I have to give that up. And I don't really like to give up too much of that. So that's the only sacrifice that I'm really have a hard time with. But I do know that if you really want to do well, you lock yourself away from everything, away from all distractions, and you just work. You just work and work and work. And then you have a beautiful finished product. I've been at it a long time. I mean, I'm 44. I've done so much investing. And a little bit now, I do enjoy the fruits of my labor a little bit. You know, it's not always 100% about winning in such a direct and simple way now. Like, to me, the win has gotten bigger than just my own victory at the table. I see a lot of things that will give me happiness. But they're still sport related. Like, it's still got to do with arm wrestling. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do to make the world a better place, you know. But I'm still very selfish. I want to crush people.
Let's talk about the super match you had against Denis Saplenikov. I'm not good with these.
Wow.
Denis
Saplenikov. My God, what a titan.
What are kind of the takeaways from that match that you had with him? What when you move forward and when you look ahead to potentially a rematch, whether it goes left-handed again or whether this time it might be right-handed? Yeah. And talk about, you still have these goals, and I've heard you say this is your Mount Everest. You're going to die trying. Yeah. You're either going to climb this damn thing or you're going to die trying to get up there. So
that's right.
The outlook and the mindset and the takeaways from that.
And when I say Denis, it's not just Denis. Like, I'll die trying, you know, I'll die on this hill, you know. But Denis is the pinnacle, right? Well, Denis was the pinnacle when I faced him. The main thing that I really grasped from Denis is understanding how far things can go. When you talk tactically about arm wrestling, like I talked about the movements in arm wrestling, but when you talk from a tactical perspective in arm wrestling, there's really 3 rules that kind of get danced around. Okay. And it's like, imagine it's a triangle. And where everything starts is the rule that I like to call just be strong. And what be strong means is it's not a general be strong. It's be strong in the way that an arm wrestler is strong. So be strong in those 4 movements in a way that tactically is very applicable. So be strong, okay? It's very simple, very simple. Just get super, super strong, because when those 2 thoughts come together from 2 different people, so I'm thinking about being strong and you're thinking about being strong, well, there's only one of us that's actually telling the truth here, right? There's only one person who's going to be stronger than the other one. Okay, which brings you to rule 2. And rule 2 can beat rule 1. And rule 2 is basically, it's the art of retreat. I like to say, never fight a losing battle. So what that means is there's a lot of choices, because the hand can move a lot of different ways. It's actually a bigger game than, like, say, powerlifting, where there's just, like, I don't know. I shouldn't talk outside my sport, because I understand there's a lot of intricacies to different sports I don't understand. But arm wrestling's not a single vector sport. So what that means is if you're strong one way, I can change the game. I can give you that spot and hopefully try and get in some other angle. And that's what's called don't fight a losing battle. There is strength involved with every single one of these rules. Even when you don't fight a losing battle, you're giving something up, but eventually somewhere you have to have a hard spot to retreat to. Okay. So if you're fighting in an open plains and the enemy, you're going head to head with them and you're not going to win in the plains, you run back to the forest. And well, if they come back there, you're going to mess them up, or whatever. And then the third rule. Okay, so here's the third rule. The third rule is don't take what's being given to you. And what that really rule is you don't chase people to where their stronghold is. Like you don't chase while people are going to a fortified retreat. Okay, so like if I run back to the forest, don't go chasing me there. Don't go chase me. That's probably what I want you to do. Don't fight a losing battle means when somebody's giving you something, 9 times out of 10, it's in your interest to not take it. It's actually in your best interest to go the exact opposite direction when it comes to sport of arm wrestling. So, for example, if we're arm wrestling, one of the things that's one of the simplest things in arm wrestling is people lead by bending their wrists in, and they bend by turning the wrists over like this. So it's cupping and it's rolling. It's a very simple fundamental attack. We call it a top roll. It's really normal. It's a great position to have. But a lot of times you'll feel outmatched, so you'll give something away. A lot of people will, instead of turning up like this, they'll come in like this. It's called supination, and it's actually a retreat. It's a retreat. And so what a lot of people will instinctively do is they'll take their wrists in. And this might be a bit complicated for a non-arm wrestler, but just understand when I bend my wrist in like this, it's turning the other person over. Okay. And normally this is what you want to do. But when somebody gives it to you, the third rule implies that you actually want to bend back the other way, which is really counterintuitive. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, there's strength in that rule. So this is the 3-way triangle of technical arm wrestling decision making. And what I understood with Dennis is that I never even got a chance to play rule 2 or rule 3. It didn't matter. I'm telling you, I was so outmatched, and I hate to say it, with strength. He was so strong, I couldn't believe it. He had taken his rule 1 to such a level. I'd never in my entire career felt anything like it. Inspiring as was inspiring. So while I was there, I just tried to soak up as much knowledge that I could about Eastern Europe training methods, and I've been rocking them since November. But I'll tell you, everything comes at a cost, okay? And the interesting thing about being great at things is the people who are really great at things are willing to die for them. They really are. Like I talk about, like, I'm willing to die on Everest, and I am, but that doesn't mean I'm going to expose myself to what I'm going to call irresponsible risks. And I want to live a long time. Like I'm not in any rush to die on Everest. Like I'm not going to go jumping across the chasm, like I'm going to go build myself a bridge. Like, I want to live a long time. If you do a little bit of research into what happened after the match, you start to realize that there's some hard decisions to be made for some people on how quick they need glory. And there's a real story to be told in the state of professional sports today. Like if you really want to dig deep into what happened after the match, there's a lot of information to be gained. I have nothing but respect for Dennis and everything they did. But I think it's important to know that life's long and life is great. And no matter what, like, even though arm wrestling's my everything, like, it's, I'm living, I'm breathing, I have family, like, it's a part of life. It's a part of life. You know, you have to pick how big a part of it, how big and how consuming this part is going to be.
Well, it sounds like these next few months are going to be very consuming if you're at home and you're focused in on the training.
It is going to be consuming. Yeah, I am going to put a lot into this one. Yeah.
Very excited. It seems like you're doing a lot of content as well. You're posting a lot of stuff on YouTube, and you post a lot of stuff on your Instagram page as well, trying to show people what the training looks like.
Yeah, I'm going to keep doing that. If I can figure stuff out with the sport, I'm all about sharing it. I learned long ago that when I tell my teammates something, they in turn make me better. And I just feel like we're really connected as a community now. Like, I feel like I'm here talking to you right now, and who knows, maybe there'll be some poker players that fall in love with arm wrestling, and in some way what they learn from arm wrestling is going to enrich their lives. And to me, that's fantastic. And to me, this is really rewarding. Like, if in some weird way arm wrestling can make somebody's life better, that's more valuable than a lot of things to me. I feel like sport's a powerful thing in people's lives. I think that it can pull people out of some dark places. I think it can give people meaning. I think that you can live a healthier life with sport in it. So I'm all about sharing, man. If I can make somebody's day better, that's good for me. And I find that things come back to you. Like, I've been really lucky. Like, I've put a lot out there, but a lot has come back to me as well.
It's interesting. What do you think is the biggest thing that's come back to you that in your mind?
Biggest thing that's come back to me. Oh man, I've gotten to see the world. You know, that's a big thing. People have opened their doors to me. I've traveled all around the world, and everywhere that I've gone, people have shared their lives with me. They've shared their cultures with me. I've gotten to see things in different cultures that I would never see here if I was just to stay in Canada. A big thing that I've learned is through the failures, you know, through the losses, you know, how to make myself a better person, but from losing. That's been good for me. Yeah, that's a big thing. Exposure, meeting people, new ideas. Yeah.
I could see that being overwhelming at the same time. When you meet so many people and you get so many new ideas in there, it could alter your path and become those distractions where you try to keep those distractions away because but it seems like to you that you are so in love with the game and the sport, you've been doing it your entire life that you don't have to worry about that as much. Those distractions, you don't have to worry about those things sort of seeping into your approach with that.
Yeah, that's something that you got to manage. And I'm in a process of managing it. Oh, did I lose you?
Just the video part.
How do I do this again? Let's see if I can get you back.
The video button on here. Dun, dun, dun. I'll give a couple shout outs while Devon's trying to get this video back out here, guys. I see Landon in the chat as always. What's up, buddy? What's up, Poppy? What's going on, man? Nick's in the chat. George Apazetis. James Wyatt Ray, your arm wrestling matches made my life better. Shout out to James Wyatt out there.
There we go.
Boom. We're back.
A lot of your volume real quiet, but okay. Yeah, no, it's interesting. Like, you got your calling, but oh man, there's a lot I gotta see still. The truth is while I'm always gonna love arm wrestling, and you know, it's always gonna be a big part of what I do. There comes a point when I'm going to have to leverage all this information that I've gathered and do something even more with it. And I think that that's important. Otherwise, I feel I'm probably not giving back the way I should. And I think that giving back is a really vital part to any person's life. And I think that while I do a lot as an athlete, I think that by going out and traveling and meeting people all around the world, I think that maybe in the next chapter of what I do, these will be very important steps, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're positioning yourself quite well with just learning more about content, learning more about how YouTube works, meeting other people that do the content as well. Because I think if you know how to market yourself and market whatever it is that you're doing and also create the content behind it, you're kind of can do whatever you want in a lot of different ways because the world's your oyster. And if you come up with a product or if you come up with a service or if you come up with whatever, you'll always know how to get it out there in some capacity. So that seems like a very valuable thing. And it's pretty cool to see. I don't even know how they, like, when I was playing full time, I could never have learned, no, I'm going to start making YouTube vids. You know, like I made these funny YouTube vids back in the day, but it was never anything that I was trying to focus on because I wouldn't have been able to have success if I was doing that. So it's crazy to see how active you are with all that different type of stuff. And also at the same time, still training for some of the biggest matches in the entire world against some of the baddest men on the planet in your sport. It's crazy. It's wild to see, brother. It's awesome, man. I think a lot of fans out there can see that and be like, man, this guy's got no off button in a lot of different ways.
I really love what I'm doing right now. I think I'm having the best time of my life. I've got a great balance right now. I've got my family. I've got arm wrestling. I'm having a ton of fun with traveling and YouTube and stuff. Like things are good. Things are good.
Yeah, let's get a couple more questions and I'll and then we'll wrap things up. I usually do these long, but I don't want to keep Devon too long, man. I'm let him get back out there on his grind out there. You know, one big thing I think a lot of people in the chat talked about is your wife Jody. She's always there, bro. I don't like every match. She's at every match on the sideline going, "Let go, crush him!" And like I remember my ex-girlfriend actually watched the match with me. She's like, "Who's that?" And I was like, "Oh, it's his wife." She's like, "I like her," you know, like that. So I imagine that the wives and the girlfriends, they see her. She's just so intense, man. You hear her yelling on the matches. She's crush them. Like that's gonna make things a lot more. It's gonna make things a lot more easier to handle because you got such a supportive wife who is also one of the top arm wrestlers in her own capacity as well too. That's like a family affair out there.
It's true. I'm really lucky. Jody and I have known each other and kind of been together since high school. Oh. So she's been through everything with me. And somehow I've been lucky enough not to lose her. Nothing is done in isolation. You know, like if I'm having success on the table, it's a lot because she's picked up the slack in other parts of my life, you know, that need it. My victory is her victory. Her victory is my victory. So yeah, she's invested and I feel like she's really figuring out this whole corner thing to a whole different level. Like when you talk, like I never really understood the strength in having a fan really was and how powerful that person can really be. Like I never really understood it, but a really hardcore fan, that's a powerful advantage. They can do a lot of things. They can do so much to help you with victory. You can get creative, but it's a whole lot more than cheering in the stands. It's a whole lot more than that. You know, the art of manipulation and the art of shaping the future is, I mean, everybody has it in their hands. Everybody has it. If you want to have anything happen, you have the power to do so. And even though like you are not directly involved in the conflict, There's so many things in the periphery that you can control. And Jody's powerful. Yeah.
I love it, man. Mark Rubin said, What's the best thing he learned about arm wrestling that relates to every day? That's a great question, Mark. I like that one, Mark.
Well, there's maybe three things. And it's true that everything in life is a mirror. Like if you really get to the bottom of something and you really figure out the truth in something, on a metaphorical level, you'll see that it probably is true across many domains. There's two very interesting thoughts in arm wrestling that kind of reflect themselves over and over in life. And it's the battle between good and evil, the battle between light and dark, up and down, heaven and hell. In arm wrestling, there's two central thoughts. And the one is, so arm wrestling is about power, right? Arm wrestling is about winning. That's what the real thing is. You're trying to win something. And there's two positions of power. And the first position of power, and I don't know why, I guess this just kind of defines me a little bit, but I feel like the most awesome position of power is to be chased, is to be so high up that people have to come to you. And it's just an idea, really, is where it starts. It has to do with a direction, and that's upwards. And whoever can master this upwards direction, this vector, and all that falls from it is in a very powerful position. And the other one is straight down. And it's these two ideas that you're always playing with. And the game of those ideas start to manifest way before you actually get to the table. But yeah, you can either go up or you can go down. And there's power in both of those ideas. Yeah, and then there's the other interesting thing that I've learned is that if you really, really want to mess somebody up, like if you really want to get in their business and really hurt them, the best way to do that is to be intimate, be right close to them, right next to them in the struggle, no matter where the struggle isn't. Like, because when I think about arm wrestling, I think about it as like shaped like a pyramid, and the pyramid talks about technique, and there's high techniques and there's low techniques. Not to say one is worse or better than the other, but if you really want to mess somebody up, ultimately is you're right next to them. So if you're doing a technique that's in the middle, you're right there in the middle with them, and you'll fully destroy. You'll get a more full victory on a person. Anyways, I get crazy.
How does that relate to every day? Wait a second.
Yeah.
How does that one relate to every day? How does this manifest itself in someone's personal life, I guess? Okay,
so what I found is, so we talk about height being the superior position. Height. So I was in the military, and dude, height rules warfare. Air Force rules. Top of the mountain rules. You're gonna fight a guy where you want to be. Higher all the time. Like, get me higher. Like, there's this simple law of gravity, and if everything else is taken away, you always have gravity. So if you can be higher than the person, you always have advantages. Come to me. That in a relationship, in a business relationship, when you go to somebody looking for something, you're always at a disadvantage in the negotiation, right? Height rules the arm wrestling negotiation, in my opinion. Height rules, but it's trumped, right? And that's why I say it's interesting, because there's something to be said for being entrenched in a low position as well. Height, really, to me, is the king. It's all about upwards. It's all about, yeah. I just always want to get higher.
Anton, so I can't say this last name. I don't know how to pronounce this one. Man, it's insane. Big fan of Devon. Much respect for you, Poppy, to make this interview happen. Can't believe that my eyes that Devon is on a poker podcast. We've had a lot of comments like that actually so far today. They're pretty shocked. They're
That's
like,
great.
they're like, how is this possible? Like, what's going on here? Why? How is the person I watch in poker and then the person I watch in arm wrestling on the podcast together? They really can't understand this one. But listen, guys, you got to go back to the beginning of the pod if you tuned in a little bit late, or if you're watching this. I guess if you tuned in if after the fact or listen on iTunes, you're going to hear the beginning. But yeah, listen, I know, very, very crazy, very unexpected. I agree. But I'm very happy that we had Devon on, kind of get to know him a little bit here, get my audience to know a little bit more, kind of, maybe they could become fans of the arm wrestling sport out there and check out some videos and pay attention to the matches. I don't know. It's a lot of fun. Why not, man? Got to hop in there and kind of, watch some of Devon's vids, because I think you talk about a lot of these sort of concepts and ideas. And I feel like, you have a humble side, but at the same time, you have a very confident side yourself too. It's like, what you're about, what you can do. But at the same time, you also are reserved a little bit as well. And you don't try to rub that in people's faces or act like you're better than anybody in terms of with the knowledge or information or what you've done in your life as well too.
Hey, I really appreciate you asking me to be on the show. I love the game of poker. I wish I knew more about it. I think you guys are some crazy ESP having wizards that I never want to look in the eye, because I feel like you just know everything about me right away. It's an amazing skill you guys got. Next time I come to Vegas, I'd love to sit down with you and just play a little bit.
Sure. Sounds fun. Yeah. I mean, if that's not before LA in July, I mean, you'll probably be training, I think, until then. But either way, I'll be out there for that as long as I'm alive. Summer comes, it's a little intense here. My life gets a little out of line. I'll be honest. The whole world comes here. I kind of know everybody in the entire poker world, so that everyone wants to go out and hang out. I'm kind of known as the guy that likes to go out and have a good time. Sometimes too, so people are, oh yeah, let's go here, let's go there. So, but yeah, Devon, I appreciate you coming on. Everybody in the chat, appreciate all the comments. James, you're gonna go snap some arms. Listen, guys, don't break anybody's arm, okay? All right, Devon, last one. How many arms have you broken? People in the chat keep asking. Broken arms count?
I'm one away from double digits. I'm at 9.
Jesus Christ.
It's like that 10th one is going to be like Highlander. It's going to be like, I'm going to transform when I get my 10th.
Yeah. I hope none of you guys in the chat are going to be the 10th one. You never know who's watching out there, guys. But that's it, guys. We're going to be back tomorrow. New video Wednesday, podcasting on Thursday, Friday. Back getting some poker guys on. Next Monday, we got Barry Greenstein, the legend of poker world. So tune in, guys. Devon, much love, brother. Take care.
Thanks so much.